Hi Lucy. So I thought it would just be easier to go like this, okay? So right, I've done them in order, alphabetical order. So you've got for the art. So if you choose to pursue your art, you've got the Lovers, Seven of Swords, and the Four of Cups being reversed. You've got the Sirens, you use your voice, expansion and freedom, Spade, and Blossom. What I get from this pile, the vibe I get from this pile is that you have to reflect a lot more about what you want from your art, and there might be a sense of loss that is going to come through in your art, and where you have faced deception in your life, that's going to come out in your art. So it might be almost kind of like a very emotionally trying process, and there might be some dissatisfaction at the end, but you can counter that by finding the reversal solution for the Four of Cups being reversed is Two of Pentacles, and that suggests that in order to avoid dissatisfaction, you have to have two tangible goals with your art. Like, are you looking to sell it? Are you looking to invest? Are you looking for making a portfolio? You need two kind of tangible goals in order to avoid that dissatisfaction at the end. But it's quite clear to me that you love the art and you feel very authentic in the art, but there is something that has happened that has made you, like, the Seven of Swords is all about deception, and sometimes in relationship readings it can refer to cheating. So did you ever at any point feel like you were cheated or cheated upon, or did you ever cheat with your art? I feel like that's a question that you might need to ask, and whatever comes up, I feel like, knowing you as I do as a sister, I feel like you feel like you might have been cheated from doing more of your art, because I know you had teachers that didn't really resonate with you. I think that's what you told me a long time ago. So I kind of see that as being your teachers sort of saying, oh, you'll never amount to nothing if you become an artist. And I think you will become dissatisfied, but if you do decide to have two tangible goals, that can help. Obviously, the Sirens is self-explanatory. Use your voice, expansion, freedom. It can be a really positive outlet. You will have to use some tools. You will have to use of your innovation and your craft to find the tools that work for you to create an artistic garden. But if you use the right tools, you've got the Blossom card. I really like this combination with the Blossom and the garden and the Spade. Okay, next line is, I did this in order. So podcast next. Eight of Pentacles, hard work, dedication. Page of Swords reversed, and Page of Wands upright. And you've got the Waterfall, inner power, unbridled confidence and claiming your place. Thor and fire. What I really like about this is that there's so many conflicting elements. You've got the Thor, you've got the fire, and what I feel like for the vibe is from this choice, if you work on the podcast, is that it's going to be a lot of hard work. And with the Page of Swords being reversed, it's like whatever you've brought to the drawing board, you're going to have to replenish that and reevaluate that to kind of see where you want to take the podcast. I feel like you haven't planned enough for it. You haven't really sat down and brainstormed. I'm seeing mind maps. You got to do mind maps or something. And the solution for the Page of Swords being reversed is the Knight of Swords, which happens to be the next card, which is kind of funny in a way. It's sort of saying you need to kind of accelerate your planning in order that it's going to tally up with where you want the podcast to go. Page of Wands, I see that very much tying in with the Waterfall, inner power, unbridled confidence and claiming your place. You're going to get further with your podcast in the near future. I sort of see this as being in the next 3 months with these kind of readings. I see this as being a 3-month kind of reading. Page of Wands is all about creativity and flourishing yourself. and just really engaging. Like when we get into like the Knight of Wands, that's more movement, but the Page of Swords is still kind of planning that creative. So I feel like with the Page of Swords and the Page of Swords and the Page of Wands, you're very much more in the planning stage of your podcast. There needs to be more planning involved before we can really take it further. Obviously, as we talked about with the Page of Wands and the Waterfall, I feel like the Page of Wands and actually Wands are fire energy. So fire and water don't tend to combine. So I think you need to kind of look at, maybe the content of your podcast needs to be a bit more out of the box. Not something that necessarily correlates to you, but something that expands to a greater audience. Thor, what do you need to let go of? What needs to melt? What needs to kind of, be released? And then you've got the fire thing, which is really funny. So fire relates back to the Page of Wands. So there is definitely a creative flair that you have got with the podcast. And I feel like the way you present yourself with your voice and the way you are with interviewing people, I feel like that could really work in your favour. Okay, now we're going to move on to writing. You've got the Hierophant, Three of Pentacles, and Judgment. And then you've got Into the Unknown. I feel the Frozen 2 song coming on. Into the Unknown. Lotus and Home. So this is a really interesting one, actually. With the writing, I feel like there is some higher learning needed with the Hierophant. Hierophant is about teaching, about school, about establishments, and sometimes religion. So have you done enough courses? I think you have, but there is something that you haven't yet discovered that you need to establish with your learning in terms of bringing more quality to your writing. There is a bit more finesse, I think, that could be found in further study of how to engage with readers with your writing. Three of Pentacles suggests crowdsourcing. So I kind of see this as being, you need to kind of almost, what's the name of that site? There is a site where you can kind of get people to back you. The name of it is eluding me. What is it called? I'll come back to you on that. But there is like a crowdsourcing kind of website. And I feel like with your writing, Lucy, this is just what's coming through. I feel like your writing needs to not be self-orientated. And that's where the judgment comes in. The judgment is all about realizing your full potential. It's like a realization. It's like the fog clearing and you realizing what you need to do. And I feel like with your writing, you could bring so much more to the table if your writing didn't ultimately reflect your experiences, your life, and your past. Could you bring a bit more creative flair to it? Could you write about something that's not regarding your personal life? Because I feel like that is what is holding you back from becoming a true writer. And also with the Into the Unknown, underworld, depth, courage, facing your fears. And I feel like this is like almost telling you to break away from what you know you want to write about and encouraging those subjects that you do not know as much about, doing the study for those subjects that you don't know as much about, that you want to bring onto the table. Lotus is all about, so this card is really interesting. This is about a plant, the lotus, which blooms in the deepest, darkest waters. That it blooms in marshes and dark, deep puddles. I might have to look at the little verbiage for that, but it kind of suggests that even though you might have to go down a dark path and do some shadow work with your writing, it suggests that something great will come from it. Even though it might be uncomfortable, it might be unpleasant, verging on maybe a little, but there is something great that will come from that. And I feel like if you're looking at growth, this one for me is the growth. I see this one as being the biggest one for growth. We'll move on to the most positive one in a moment. And then you've got the home. I feel like the home is where you want to write. It's where you feel the most attuned to writing. And I feel like you're very attached to your living quarters over the road from Kersey. So I feel like it doesn't tie as much to the rest of the spread. But I feel like this is kind of like where it's going to happen. It's going to be in your home where you do your writing, if you do that at all. Okay, right, moving on to the next line. Right, so for the unknown option, you've got the Four of Pentacles, which is all about security and frugality. Queen of Swords, practical, intellectual, not quite as high up as the King. Possibly in some ways quite cold cutting, and maybe a bit upfront. She's not the warmest of the queens, but you have also got the Queen of Cups. If we're looking at positivity in a spread, the unknown option is probably the best spread in terms of positive vibes. You've also got the Let It Rain, allowing what is, inevitability, trust, fruitful, and hope. So obviously I can't go into much detail with the unknown option, but it seems apparent to me that there is an option that hasn't yet presented itself, which will allow you to save, but you would have to be frugal. You have to cut back on a few things, and it would also create some longevity in terms of long-term security. Queen of Swords is practically minded. She knows her maths, she knows her sciences and all that. I'm not necessarily saying that you need to know all of that, but she is kind of like that female manager who just has her shit on. She knows what she's doing and she knows how to get where she wants to go. She's not always the most empathetic. But weirdly enough, you right next to her, you have the Queen of Cups, and she is extremely empathetic. So I almost feel like you're finding a balance with this unknown option where you're creating longevity and long-term financial goals. I'm not getting a picture of what it is in my mind at the moment, but it is an unknown option to you that hasn't yet come up. But it is also asking you to look at yourself and reflect upon how you can be practical and empathetic at the same time. It's always good to have your goals. It's always good to kind of be selfish and say, no, I'm working on this right now. But at the same time, picking those times when you can sort of break away from that and say, I'm a caring, nurturing individual, and I need to give care and nurturing to this project. And I need to be kind to the recipients, the clients, whomever it is that benefits from this avenue that you're going through. Let it rain, allowing what is, inevitability and trust. So this is something that is kind of, you might think little of it at the time, but it's inevitable that it's going to come up and you have to just trust it. You have to go with it, you know. And actually it's that if I look at all of them, all of the lines, I would bank on this one. Weirdly enough, you know, when I did this course, it was kind of funny. The tutor told me always include an unknown option because sometimes it can be the best one, and I think that in this case it is like the best one. It's really weird. And then you've got fruitful. That's pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be a very fruitful root, but you have to wait for that fruit to grow and you know, ripen. That's going to take some time, and eventually you're going to have bounty. And you can only do that if you have enough hope. You know, you've got to keep your hope, you've got to keep your optimism, you've got to keep your flair going. Ooh. Hi, Ryan. Oh, okay, hold on.